Hey guys, it's Jedi Lex, and welcome to the 30th episode of Beyond Tatooine, where I bring on different collectors to talk about how their love of Star Wars originated, as well as take a look at and chat about their collections. And on today's episode, I have Jeff from the Star Wars Addict channel and the Spice Runners Lounge podcast. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm happy that I'm the 3-0. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Big number. We're getting up there, but you have a
yeah,
phenomenal collection. I'm a huge fan of the stuff that you guys do, and I was looking through some of the pictures, and I could see kind of the progression of certain things, and I was like, yeah, this guy has got a good collection. I like it.
it's always a progression, right? I mean, I guess that's why we collect, right? It's the
Yeah.
progression of things. It's seeing what other people are doing, right? I mean, everybody's collection means something as far as you get a little tidbit from everybody else. So yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about doing this is you get to kind of see all the other collectibles that are out there, and of course, collecting is a progression. You start with little things, and then you start getting a little bit bigger and bigger, and then you need more space because you've got so much stuff, and then you've got to upgrade some of the things that you have. And of course, they're always coming out with new stuff. Like Hot Toys, I feel like is on a kick right now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So I think too, like you start with small things and then you go, wow, I can get this really large thing. And once you get a couple of large pieces, then you start going back to small pieces, right? To integrate in, right? To fill in
Mhm.
gaps. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll start with my first question. What kind of made you a Star Wars fan? What brought you in? What was really your introduction to the Star Wars universe?
Yeah. So my parents growing up were, typical middle class, right? I didn't even see being older, right? I didn't really see the movie until like a couple weeks after it was out. But I remember my parents like getting involved with it and wanting to take me to see it. And right. So seeing it in the theater and, same kind of thing is like I was listening to Scott's the last time. And I think it's the same kind of thing. Like you take it and you're like, you don't know what to expect, and then you see these massive ships, right? That are like seemingly like in space, and you're like, wow, how did they do that? And like it's just amazing, right? Your eyes just go like, wow, it's so cool. Like right from that get-go, right? The very first scene, you're like, wow, these ships are like flying over your head and the sounds and so I got into it that way. And then, you know, uh, like a couple years after that, like my parents when the toys came out, right? So I didn't we weren't able to like they weren't able to afford to buy the brand new toys, but like there was enough garage sailing going on that we like went to garage sales. And like I remember getting the Millennium Falcon toy at a garage sale, and
Oh
my
wow.
dad we got it for like $5, and it was like I brought it home and I jammed all my figures in it and like you're flying around the yard. And but yeah, that was kind of how I got into it. And ever since then, like my parents kind of always kind of pushed it a little bit too because it's a hobby as well. And they still like, my dad, till he passed away, he followed it the whole time, right? He followed Spice Runners. My parents love getting on and like seeing me online from Florida. So yeah, so it's a cool thing, and they've carried on throughout my life. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it's always important when families I feel like Star Wars really connects a lot of families, and I feel like it's a common thread, like, you guys can all come together at some point and just sit down and watch Star Wars, and everything is okay for that hour and a half, 2 hours, and I think that's really cool that your parents kinda support you, because mine support me too, they're like, "Oh, I just watched your episode," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." So, I always love that, I think it's great.
Yeah, they're always proud of us no matter what we're
Yeah.
up to, right? I mean, it's there's all kinds of other things they could be saying about the hobby or the addiction, right? So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
I
awesome.
mean, I get some of that too, but, it's nice when it's, like, kind of positive and I can share those, like, milestones with them and they can kind of, be like, "Wow, I've noticed a big difference in, the quality or and this and that," and I was like, "Oh, wow." Like, it means a lot more, but
Yeah,
what
for
would you
sure.
say is your favorite movie?
So I would say it's Empire.
Okay.
I like so you figure like New Hope, right? Kind of builds that story, and you start to
Mhm.
get interested in the story. I feel like Empire being smack in the middle of the OG stuff, the original trilogy. I feel like it has the best storylines. It has the best creatures. We see more of the vehicles. Like it's just Empire for me is like really, really crazy, and I love that to death, right? Because it's like, Han and Carbonite, and it pushed through to that third episode, right, where you really wanted to see kind of what happened to Han, and right, it just was really cool. Like all the locations were cool, so yeah, I really like that part.
Yeah, awesome. And speaking of creatures, I mean, I noticed some behind you. You got Jabba, the Rancor, Forlome. You got some droids
Yeah.
too. I think you got IG. So are you big kind of creature and droid guy, or are you more of a ship guy? Because I know Scott was like a huge ship and vehicle guy, but it looks like you're more of a creature and droid kind of guy.
Yeah, so my you talk about progression, right? So
Mhm.
I started in autographs, right, when I was
Okay.
collecting. So I started in autographs. I moved into a couple 1/6. I was doing helmets for a little bit. And then I did get a couple of 1/6 figures, and I'm like, unlike Joel and some of the other guys, I just don't love posing them, to be honest. Right? Like trying to like figure them all out and stuff, which is cool. Like a lot of people get
Mhm.
into that. I just I like being able to unbox it and then like kind of set it on the shelf and kind of enjoy it and look at it. And so I would say, yeah, I'm a creature person. I like the droids. I'm big into statues. I would say ships has probably been my second half of or third progression part. Like I'm starting to get into more ships. Like I have a whole wall that I'm going to be dedicating to ships.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I love the creatures. It's just again something different you don't get to see every day in every movie, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I think the creatures is kind of like what makes it Star Wars, in my opinion. Yes, the ships are cool and stuff, but I feel like the creatures really take it to that next level. So it's always interesting because I think the creatures that they come up with are really unique and they're always fun to like talk about and be like, oh, well, I wonder if we'll get that as a collectible. Yes, we'll always end up getting a ship. I think there's like 1,000 Millennium Falcons out there, but there's only X amount of Rancors, you know? So I
yeah.
definitely really like the creatures, and I kind of noticed you had like a little bit of a theme behind you.
Well, the creatures the creatures like especially in like not nowadays with Disney. Disney tries to stretch certain things weird, but like even like in the original trilogy stuff, like the mystique of like not really knowing the whole backstory of the creature, and like being able to like, wow, where did they find this rancor? Like, and you kind of like if you ask somebody like where a rancor came from back during original trilogy, like they'd all have their own like story, right, or their own build up, right, or where the bounty hunters originated from, where did Jabba come from, and like it was that mystique of like a mystery of you kind of that make believe, right, trying to figure out in your head like where do these creatures come from, right, where do they get them, right, and I think that's part of Star Wars also is like trying to make believe in your head like where is this stuff coming from, where do they build this, right, that kind of a thing. So I like that part of it also. So
Yeah, I do like when they leave room for speculation because I feel like that always makes it fun. I mean, maybe not so much speculation where they kind of can fill in some gaps, but I do like when they kind of leave it up to interpretation. I think that makes it all the more fun to kind of theorize and kind of come up with your little theories about what's going to happen, where they could have possibly come from, where they're going to go. But sometimes it is nice when they kind of spell out certain things, you know.
it's
But
true, and I like it when they spell
it's
it
okay.
out more in the comic books than they do in the
Yeah,
right the TV
yeah,
miniseries stuff, but
that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, we definitely got a lot of news with D23 last weekend or
yeah,
this week,
definitely.
possibly. We got Andor season 2, I think there was a trailer, Mando, Skeleton Crew. What are your thoughts on all of these kind of really cool announcements? Or maybe they're not
I
cool, I don't know.
No, I'm on the. I like the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Okay.
I'm a big YouTube and like watcher, and I watch everybody's channel and your channel and everybody, and just kind of see what people's take is. And I forget who had a take on it where it was like the only thing with the Mando and Grogu, I love it. It's the name, right? Like, could they have come up with a different Mando? Like Mando and Grogu sounds. It doesn't sound very like movie-ish for a title.
Okay.
Um, that would be my only critique of that, but otherwise, I love it. Like all the shots of like the snowtroopers, and they have AT-ATs in there, and I mean that's crazy, right? It looks great. Anything that Disney comes out with from a TV series now, I think everybody's kind of like, oh, you hold your breath and kind of like, oh, I don't. Hopefully, it's going to be good. From the trailer, I actually was impressed. I actually like it. I think the trailer does. is completely different. I think we're going to get a different view of Star Wars. I think if people go in just with a very open mind, like we try to do as YouTubers, right? You try to like
Yeah.
block out the noise and kind of go on with your own opinion. Um, yeah, I like it. I actually really excited about the droid in it, the pirate looking droid with the peg leg and
Yeah.
it looks cool. The characters look cool in it. So yeah,
Yeah, it definitely looks, I mean, it was a little, the beginning I was kinda sus about. I was like, "Oh my god, they're on a school bus and they're in this, like, urban area," and I was like,
yeah,
"Whoa, where are we going?" Like, it felt very, I was like, "This doesn't seem like our typical Star Wars," but then it kinda was progressing. We got to see the Onyx Cinder, there was just some really cool shots. I really liked that
yeah,
Max Rebo looking character. But that
yeah,
Pyro Droid I think was really cool, and they actually had him at, like, the exhibit, and I was like, "That is an interesting looking droid." Like, I like that. It was very Goonies, very Stranger Things, like, I'm a
yeah,
fan. I
yeah.
like.
And it was funny because we were joking around as I was joking around with somebody else. And it's like Hammerhead, he's walking his dog, right? And it's like, can you imagine like Snaggletooth's next door. He's like, "Hey man, can you keep your dog off my grass, right? Next time, like, like, are they having these like conversations in a Star Wars neighborhood? It's interesting,
Yeah,
you know.
it
Or the
is.
band's playing next door, like across the street every weekend, the cantina. They're like, "Hey, look, you guys got to keep that down," Like, I don't know. It seems interesting to me. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
It seemed very, like, just urban, and I was like, "I don't know, like, this just," it's a very different take. I mean, even Coruscant is not that urban, like, it's very busy and stuff, so it's kinda just seeing, like, a calm, like, riding your bike, I was like, "Whoa, like, this is interesting." So, I'm
Yeah,
excited to see where it's gonna go. I always try to go in with an open mind on stuff. I feel like when you go in negatively, it's just gonna be bad regardless. So I just try to be very positive about it and open-minded, and I'm impressed with what I saw. I'm sure we're gonna get, like, 500 more trailers, so we'll
yeah,
see. But that seems to be the Disney way.
yeah. And yes, I know. So and I hope they don't spoil it with trailers and things, right? I think they
Yeah.
give enough of it, right? But like the other part too is like I think it's a good thing to like I know a lot of original trilogy fans, right, don't want new Disney stuff, right? But it gives us content, gives us stuff to talk about, right? But then on the same hand too, like I like the very different stories, like Andor, for instance, right? I mean, Andor is like a very like cloak and dagger type of a show, and like that's so different than like what you see with sabers and blasters and vehicles, right? I
Mhm.
like that, right? I like that part of it. I like the Star Wars angle where it's a little different. So, yeah, I'm crossing my fingers. We'll hope that it's
I
a good
mean,
series.
it seems like from what I've kind of heard, I feel like I only got, like, clips and pieces. Of course, I'm trying to find all the, like, leaked videos and stuff, but it
Yeah,
seemed, like, very interesting. Like, it seems like they're bringing some characters from Rogue One in, and I'm kind of excited to see it. I really didn't mind Andor. It kind of seems like it wasn't a crowd pleaser, perhaps, but I think it's just because, as you mentioned, it is different. There's no lightsaber fights. It's very much a slow burn and a different take, which I kind of think Skeleton Crew might be. Yes, there's probably going to be a little bit more action, but I don't know. I'm excited to see where Andor season 2 is going to go. I was about to say Rogue One, like 2, but that didn't make sense.
yeah. Well,
But
I think the thing is too is like as collectors, right? I mean, and as Star Wars fans, we want to see good content. We want to see good stories, right? Because we're used to the original stuff. We're used to those good storytelling pieces. But I think the same hand too is like, I think a lot of people get discouraged too with some of the series. Is like, man, I don't want to collect that part of any of the TV series. I don't think I'm going to collect any of the stuff. I mean, I have a Mando bust, and I got some other things from Mando because I really
mhm,
thought that storytelling was good. It doesn't mean that I'm disinterested in the show altogether just because I'm not going to collect something from it. But like,
yeah.
just good story, right? Just give us a good story. So
Yeah, and I think some of that gets overlooked a little bit, but yeah, even I like as a collector standpoint, I feel like when we do finally get new content, it takes a while. At least I collect Funko and
yeah,
stuff, so at least with Funko, I don't know too much about like Sideshow. I try to keep up with them, but it just
yeah,
seems like they're very late to the punch. So even if you did want to collect stuff from that series, when it comes out, you're very excited. I have to have it. Got to be the first to get it, but it takes months or like years to get something. So by the time it does come out, you're not really like that hot to get it. You're like, yeah, actually, I don't know. Like that was so long ago. I don't really think I need it. But if it would have come out that same day that it aired, I would have been like, oh my God, I have to go to Target right now. So I feel like
Yeah.
in that instance, collecting is a little weird. Sometimes they're very on top of it, and sometimes they're very not on top of it. So it's interesting to kind of see that like stark difference occasionally. And I don't know why that is, but it
Yeah,
remains.
the stuff, I mean, like, we've talked about it on Spice Runners. I've talked about it on another YouTube channel I do also sometimes is like when you have such a limited space, right? So then you try to put a placeholder in for something because you're like, wow, you saw it on like Sideshow or even Funko, right? You're like, wow,
Yeah.
I really want that. I'm gonna leave a spot for that, right? And then when you can't find it or it's not gonna come out for 2 years, you're like, wait a minute, I could get this piece and that could go in there for right now, and then I could like sell it later or box it up and put it in a closet, right? Or
Mhm.
whatever. But I agree with you. It's hard because you want it in your space and you want it kind of like Star Wars collectors. I think are very impatient. Like I know I am. Like I want
Yeah.
stuff like right now, right? Um, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to leave an open spot in your collection for some things that are coming out down the future. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. It's tough. The collecting world.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but I guess like speaking of shows and stuff, do you have a favorite show? Could be I don't know if you're into animated, but could be animated, live action. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I do like The Mandalorian. I like everything about The Mandalorian. I think my second show would probably be Andor, right? So, I mean, I like the Andor series. Um, yeah, I mean, those are my ones. I mean, the Mando one I thought was so different. I do think like towards the end they started overutilizing Grogu. Plus, I thought that was a really silly name for him. I wish they would have just kept it Baby Yoda. Um, but
Yeah.
it's actually it made me think about Mando in a different light too, because so my wife supports my hobby, right? So she's fine
Mhm.
with it, as long as it stays in this room, that kind of a thing. But like she will watch Star Wars, she's watched the movies, but like not super into it. But like the Mandalorian, we sat down and watched that, and like the first episode we watched, she was into it, right? She watched every episode, and
Oh,
for me, I was like, well, that's interesting, like, because she's a really non-Star Wars person, right? Or not that into it as we all are. And she was
yeah.
very enthralled in it and very interested. So I felt like it kind of brought some new people in, The Mandalorian did, right? Which I loved. That was awesome, right? To be able to see that. So
100%. I totally agree. I think Mando came at a very like pivotal time in society and stuff too, like with COVID happening. So
oh
I feel
yeah.
like it really brought in a lot of new fans and really kind of like invigorated a lot of old fans. Like, oh my God, like this is why I love Star Wars. My sister, she watches it. She's never really cared for Star Wars. It's always been me and my dad's thing. But as soon as Baby Yoda came on the screen one afternoon when she was like walking by and we were watching it, she was like, and she sat down and we watched the whole season, and
That's
she
awesome.
watches every episode going forward, and now she's into Star Wars, and it's kind of just been like a cool experience to kind of see her come in. So I totally agree. I feel like Mando opened up like a whole new door and brought a lot of collectors in, which or not collectors, but like possibly
Just
collectors,
people.
but a lot of new fans. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was cool. Loved
Yeah. I
it.
think it reconnected, right? Because, and we've talked about all this about too, is like Star Wars brings all of us together, right? No matter where we are in our lives, no matter what we're doing, the community is phenomenal, right?
Mhm.
It's a major part of why we like do these things, right? And it's sharing and it's that community piece, but like to bring in new people into that community, right? I mean, that's always great too, right? It you want things that bring people together no matter what walks of life they come from, right? Kind of like levels you out, right? All so to speak. So I like that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. It totally makes sense. I get it. Uh, and then before we take a look at your collection, my last question is
Sure.
who is your favorite character?
Let's see that that is a really tough one. I So, and I was thinking about that because I've seen you ask that on some other episodes, and you think about it, and you're like, wow, what do I have the like? Who do I have the most of? Kind of a thing. And it's funny because in collecting, they almost steer you into certain characters, right? So these like Vader, there's a ton of Vader stuff, right? So you
Yeah.
could collect Vader as your favorite all day long. Um, and the funny part is I think I would choose Chewbacca, and
Okay.
I don't really even have that. I don't even think I have that much Chewbacca right now in my collection, which it's just I again, it's when he was growing up for me, like it's the mystery of like where did he come from? What races? Are there other Chewbaccas? Are there other Wookiees? Right? Like where does he come from? What's his family like? Right? Where did they find this guy? Right? And again, the mystery of it, and how tall he was, and yeah. So I like that part. I liked him as a character. So
Yeah, I think he's a very slept on character, so that's interesting that you, brought him up. I think you might have been, like, the first person, maybe the second that I've interviewed that has, like, loved Chewbacca, so I think that's really cool. So were you a fan of seeing him then in the Han Solo movie? Kind of
oh,
like a
absolutely.
younger Chewbacca?
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's a funny I don't know if you've seen it, it's worth checking out. On YouTube there's a funny one where they actually they allow Mayhew to actually do his voice with Harrison.
Mhm.
And so like Chewbacca's on top of the Falcon and he's talking in his normal voice and he's telling Harrison he's yelling down to Han Solo, he's like, "Hey, up here." And it's Mayhew's voice. It's absolutely hysterical. But like I love that. I love the Chewbacca, right? Just from again mystery and trying to think about where he came from. So
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I love
yeah,
that, that's great. So then he did send me those pictures, let me pull those
sent you a
up.
lot of pictures, so I apologize for some of
You did, that is fine. We got some cool
that.
stuff. Some very interesting stuff that I kind of worry not I don't worry about it, but I wonder perhaps, starting with this
Sure.
one, the table. Did you make that?
Yeah. No. So there was a guy. The interesting thing is there's this guy in Facebook. Um, he was posting in some of the groups, and he's like, "Hey, I make these coffee tables." He makes like a Jason Voorhees, like so. Was it Silver Lake? He makes a diorama of that in a coffee table, and then
Oh,
he posted this Star Wars table. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome, right? And I start talking to him, and he's like, yeah, he's like, where do you live? And I'm like, oh, I'm in Merrimack, New Hampshire. He's like, oh my god, I'm in Londonderry, which is one town over.
oh
And I said,
wow.
wow, that's amazing. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm actually looking to sell it if you're interested. And I said, I'll love it. I'll take it.
Heck yeah.
Um, and the only thing it's still a work in progress. The only thing I don't like is the scales of the ships. So like in this picture, these are painted. So I made all the ships, right? These are painted Bandais. So the ones that are sitting on top of the table is like my layout of what I want to do with inside the coffee table. Like pull out some of his scaled ships and put these
Mhm.
ones in because I think it scales better. But
Yeah,
I'm trying to create more of like that whole battle scene that's going on in A New Hope. But yeah, it's
yeah.
centerpiece in my collection. So
It is a cool piece, that is for sure. I like the ships
yeah,
too, so that's cool that you've made them, so it'll be interesting to see when you get to kinda get it all put together and have that scene. It'll be interesting to see it all completed then.
yeah, I like it. It's cool.
I wonder if I think you had a closer picture of the ship. So you, like, painted these and
Yeah.
everything?
So yeah. These are the Bandai kits are amazing. And they're all like marked appropriately. Like this is red one, right? I have red two, red three, red four.
Mhm.
So I have all the squadron. And they're all painted appropriately the way that they would be. So um
Wow.
yeah, because Star Wars fans are fanatical about that stuff. So yeah.
Some
Everybody
people
else is
more
gonna look
than
at it
others.
as an X-Wing.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to differentiate the ships and stuff, but sometimes I feel like it's such, like, minute details occasionally that I'm like, "It looks close enough." Like, it doesn't bother me, but I know some people are very, like, "It is not screen accurate," and I was like, Okay, I believe you, but I can't tell the difference. So,
Yeah.
but I know
I'm
that's like a
not
big thing.
Yeah, and I'm usually I'm usually not like that. But like for instance, these I don't know why these X-wings were like, man, it'd be cool if I had like again red. This is red one, right, and have
Mhm.
them like in their actual environment. I just felt like it was necessary. But yeah,
Yeah, that is cool. So are those the same kits that, because I've seen some of the other people, they have like the training device thing that they've like talked about putting together. Is that the same company or is that different?
no, different. So Trooper Trent does the spinning Jedi remote. Yeah, these are Bandai. I think they're one. They're the 144. So, but
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. This is also a pretty massive piece, it looks like.
yeah. This is half scale. It's from Corbanth. It does it does all of the voices, like all the you know basically the audio from it. There's a button on the front that does audio. Um, the bass. So I love this piece because this is a collaboration. So when I bought Corbanth's piece, all he said is like, hey, get a pipe and get a tripod and set the thing on top of it. And so I contacted J2SO and I said, hey, what do you think of this? Right? Like, what can we do? And he came up with like, let's put it on a snow base. And so he made this. So J2SO made the snow on the bottom of it. The base is actually it's interesting because the base is actually a flipped over, which he had this idea. It's flipped over like planter box. So drilled a hole in it, and then it's sitting on a piece of wood, and then it has a weight, like an actual weightlifting weight on the bottom of the wood, and then halfway up under the snow, it has another weight so that it'll keep it from swaying side to side, right? Because that's what most people are like, God, I don't want to touch it or whatever. And it's pretty rock solid as far as staying in that position. So,
Huh.
but yeah, half
That is
scale from Corbanth.
Yeah, I think the bass too, like kind of I was like, "Oh, it must have come like that." But no, that's even cooler. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That is pretty cool. And I know you mentioned you are you still collecting autographs or not as much anymore?
I do. So I collect autographs when I can now pair it with something. Um, and I think a lot of people are doing that now. If I compare it with a prop or it fits in like, an actual like diorama, um, and like the Vader one for me, like this is Ralph McQuarrie. So it's a Ralph McQuarrie Vader. This is before the Hyperdrive exclusive that they did. So I got this from a guy off of Etsy, which it's great. And then these are the actual so these sabers are a mock-up of Ralph McQuarrie's artwork sabers. So which are pretty unique also. So you got Luke's and you got Vader's, right? Conceptual sabers. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
and Ralph
pretty
McQuarrie's signature on the plaque. So
Yeah. No, and I totally get what you're saying. I feel like I've noticed a lot of collectors recently are trying to get autographs on like plaques and stuff to kind of pair with items that they have in their collection. Like I know Flux recently, he's been posting like all his different stuff like with plaques, and I was like, wow, that looks like really good. Like I need to start doing that perhaps, but we'll see.
yeah,
See.
well, and some people. So there's a difference in plaques too, even, right? So
Mhm.
some people love just plain, right, silver and black plaque, right? Looks like master replicas, kind of a thing. And then
Yeah.
other people like the art plaques, which all of us are getting our plaques from Ariel, so
Mhm.
at AM Customs. But yeah, great stuff. He does great work. So
Yeah, I've gotten a few plaques from him and his stuff is really cool. I mean, I like the classic, like, kind of chic look of the black
yeah,
and gray, but I just feel like when it kinda has, like, art to it, it just like, I feel like it gives it that extra oomph. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I like the art plaques.
I like tying it back to that movie scene, right? So you tie it
Yeah,
back to the movie, right? That's why I like the art plaques. So
for sure, for sure.
yeah,
And this looks like a pretty big piece too. I haven't seen this one before.
yeah. So this
Surprisingly.
is this is actually so. So I'm not a big like, so I will buy licensed pieces and I'll buy custom pieces. I just like cool stuff in the collection. So it's like, I don't really care if it's licensed or unlicensed, as long as it's cool and it
Yeah.
ties it back. Um, and some of the things that I have in my collection, like I used to play with like the Tauntaun, like the vintage Tauntaun. And it's like to have something that's like a toy back when you were growing up, and then to have something that looks like it actually got sucked right out of the movie is like, it's a phenomenal time, right? Because this to me is like it got sucked right out of the movie. This particular piece is done by a company, a garage builder called Stan Arts.
Oh, wow.
So Stan Arts, most people will do 3D prints.
Mhm.
Stan Arts, he actually does clay sculpture still. So this is
Wow.
an actual clay sculpture that he then put into a resin kit. um, he sells them on Etsy. This particular one, I asked him if he would paint it for me, and he painted it. So um, when he did this one, he actually was like, I said, "Look, do you have a Luke one? You're working on a Luke," and he said, "I'm not." And I said, "Well, could I pay you to start to work on a Luke?" And he finally came out with a Luke, but then he refused to paint it because he's like, the Tauntaun is so hard to paint. So I found another guy to do that. So yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, this one's good.
It it is, it's very impressive. I like the paint job on it. He did a really good job, but I feel like I could tell that that takes a lot of work, especially, like, with the layering and things like that. So,
Yeah, he's not huge. You can kind of see him down here in the bottom.
let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's not too big. He looks a lot
I
bigger in
think
that picture.
he does. Yeah. I think he's a little bigger than 1/6. So probably 1/10 scale. So a little bigger, 1/6.
Nice. Yeah, he definitely looks massive in that picture. I didn't realize he was, like, tiny, tiny, tiny. And then I
Oh
saw
yeah.
this video. Did you I've always wanted one of these, and I wanted to, like, 3D print one, but did you
Yeah.
make that or did you buy it?
So this is interesting. So I'm always trying to like, I don't know, like customize it or like change it around a little bit. So this is
Mhm.
the Katana from the actual Disney, but
Oh,
then I put a Lazy Susan in it because I'm like, these paints, these Archive X paints are like, they're expensive. So I'm like, oh well, let me put them in a Lazy Susan, and I glued it into the center of this thing. So now, and I put a light in the top of it.
mhm.
So like actually wired a light up in there. Anyway, so now I have two of them that hold all of the Archive X paints for like model painting. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, I just customized it.
Yeah,
Thought it was
it
a neat
looks
thing to
really
do.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
W would, like, a puck light fit or no?
It does. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's a puck light that's kind of built into the top now, and
gotcha.
it's on a sensor. So I don't kill the battery. So once it pops open and you get ready to stick your hand in there, the light comes on.
Nice.
So yeah,
That is cool. I gotta find one of those then.
yeah,
I've always
they are
wanted
really
one.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they, like, can just store stuff that I feel like is awesome. And
yeah,
then I noticed you had these. Oh, I guess we'll do, like, a sequence perhaps.
yeah.
Are these the baseball bat display cases from Michaels?
They are. So I threw a couple of these in here. This is my original. So this was my original room, um,
Oh,
years ago now. Um, but so there was a little lip, almost like the lip that's in here right now. There's a little lip that kind of goes down in the basement a little bit. So the bat displays actually fit around that perimeter. And I actually just found some places to get a card to get the card backs. And you can just put them in the actual bat boxes. You drill a hole out the back and you put an LED strip on the bottom, and you got your baseball bat display for vintage. um,
yeah.
yeah, some crazy pictures. You can actually, instead of doing the card backs too, you can actually go and, if you don't want to pay for the card backs, you can actually just use matte cardboard and do blue or yellow or vintage
Mhm.
colors. and just stick that in the back, and then put your figures in front of that,
Ah.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I've seen some people kind of display like they have these really cool like cases that have all the colors, and then they have the figures in front of it. And I was like, I like those. So I was like,
Yeah,
a cool thing. Yeah, I've got my like baseball display. Ba- I've got a few of them around the room, but they have my little like Funko sodas in them. They're just perfect, and they keep the dust off of it, and they're easy to open and hang. Love them.
I do like it because it's easy to open. You just take the door and pop
Yeah,
it open, and you can move
and
things in and out.
shuts. Yep,
Yep. Yeah,
it's
it's
perfect.
awesome.
I mean, I think it does have that like little slot where you can put the baseball bat and stuff too, but you could like kind of just take it out a little bit.
Yeah,
But
it just pops out.
it,
Yeah.
it's good. I like them. I got like it was like a buy one and get two free at Michael's one day, so I went and I got three of them, and I was like, this is a steal. So,
I think I think places like that start to watch us too, because they started doing. I think they started doing ones with lights in them.
oh
So like they
wow,
have lights in them now, where you don't have to like drill out the hole and put an LED strip in it, and yeah. So
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, initially I saw they were like advertised as just having like a baseball bat in them, and then I was just waiting, and I was like, I don't really need to buy this right now. And then a couple of months down the road, I saw they were having a sale, and I like was looking on the website, and I saw they had like action figures in them, and I was like, oh, they're catching on. They're catching
oh
on.
yeah,
That is cool. I didn't know
definitely.
they did lights in them.
Yeah,
I have
they
to.
have ones that actually have lights now. So yeah,
That is cool. Might have to upgrade. Oh,
yeah.
is this the Luke one?
This is the Luke. Yeah.
Perhaps. Wow.
um, and so with Luke, I had to find, because I didn't feel like painting him either, and I wanted him to try to match Han Solo as possible. So I
Hmm.
had to go find Santino, actually, he's on all the time with us, but Santino actually pointed me to a guy that actually does custom painting of sculptures and of figures. And I told him about the Han. I showed him pictures of the Han, and he's like, I can match it up, or I can make the tauntaun a little different in color, so that there's a variation, right? Because Luke's tauntaun would probably be a little different than Han's, and I'm like, yeah, that works for me. But yeah, this is a completely different painter than Stan Art, but yeah, this this Luke is, again, it's just they're good as a pair. And yeah, I do get some every once in a while. Some people don't like that he's like talking into his wrist, but feel like that's like he's getting ready to call, like, hey, I'm, out here on the outer, edge. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think the face is really detailed too, so he did a good job
yeah,
painting it. Looks really
yeah.
good.
This one has like whiskers. His whiskers are out. So,
I can kind of see it.
yeah.
Interesting. The other one doesn't have
Yeah.
whiskers? Or no?
No, I don't think the other one does actually. The other one does not have whiskers. This one has a broken horn. So, like Luke's, but yeah,
Interesting. That is pretty cool. I
yeah,
definitely like that. See your buddies at Oga's.
yeah.
And then speaking of your helmet collection, I thought these were pretty cool. Some helmets I haven't seen before. So are these like custom helmets, or they don't look like some of them don't look Black Series. Like they look
No,
different.
yeah. So for a while there, it was hard to find custom clone helmets. Um, so if it's a variety, right? So some are from overseas, some are from, Empire Essentials. He did a couple of them for me, but I wanted like all the clones that in the clone helmets that were Order 66, right? um, and so like I went and paired them with like the helmet and the 1/6 figure, and almost like what Elijah does now too, like the different, and kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, is like you don't have to have like everything in scale, right? So in fact, it works a little better when you don't have everything in the exact same scale, right? So you play with a 1/6 and put the full size helmet in it, and it starts to kind of look really like different. So it's kind of what we do in here. So
Yeah. I like the when people kind of pair the helmets with like a figure, especially like the hot toys. I feel like those are like a really nice scale to kind of put with the helmets, but I totally agree. I think having the variation also kind of adds some depth to your collection a little bit, especially when you're displaying everything, because if everything's the same size and you start like having to stack things behind each other, then you can't see what's behind it. So kind of having some depth allows you to just to play with the collection. I think that's the whole other aspect to collecting too. Yes, you have to get the stuff, but then the second part is how are you going to display it? I think that's the whole like art, I guess you could say, to collecting.
That's my so Heather, my wife, that's her big thing too, is she's like, just make it look nice, right? Like, so I have her to thank for that, because otherwise I would stack like junk all over the shelves, right? So but yeah.
I think that's what I enjoy about collecting. Yes, it's cool to like get the pieces, but then I'm like, how am I going to display it? Do I want to add lights? Like, what should I put it
Yeah.
next to? Where should I put it? And I think that just adds like a whole additional piece to it, because then you can also change up your displays. And if you're not liking something, like, just makes it fun instead of just having it like in a box or just like stacked across the room. So I think it looks really cool. I like the helmet. They look
Yeah, those are cool.
those look cool. That is for show, for shizzles. And then I see you were kind of going with this like hidden room type
Oh
situation.
yeah.
I forget what the guy's name. Star
Yeah,
Wars.
this is the entrance to my room. Um this room is always in flux, so there's junk everywhere all the time. Right. This is when I was building the Diagostini, the Falcon. Um And then this is a shot of Brian Makes Dioramas. He built me this amazing docking bay that's now center of the ship wall. So,
Nice.
but yeah, it's yeah, he built it so that I could put there you go. That's the picture there. I actually held it up because I wanted to see this, but that thing is that docking bay is about 48 inches long.
Oh
So
wow.
that Falcon is that's a Diagostini Falcon that you can build on your own with like the magazine descriptions.
Mhm.
It's like 2.5 feet long. So but yeah, it's gonna go on an actual TV mount, and it'll be at a tilt so you can't see the mount, and it'll look like it's taking off from docking bay. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I was gonna say, does it like sit in there? Because it, but that would be cool if you get a little stand for it and it's taken off. That'll be pretty cool.
yeah,
That is
it lights up, the engines light up, it makes sound, it's all good.
wow. That
Yeah.
is that is. Did you have to add the lights to it, or it kind of like came with the pieces and or
It
no?
has so the best thing about Diagostini, the Falcon that they have, is you put all. I mean, it is a time suck. But you feel good about it, right? Because you get away from your electronics and you do something right with your hands. But like it's thousands of parts and little screws and things, right? But like you can just throw it together over a certain amount of months, right? Depending on how much work you put in it, or they have all this customization that you can do to it. You can add different engine lights, you can change the cockpit lighting around, you can you can do all metal like gun turrets, so like inside the compartment you can make that light up differently. So there's customization with it, which is great too. So
Yeah, that is, yeah, because then you can kind of make it to how you like it. It doesn't have to be, screen accurate or how it, the stock, you can kind of change it up and stuff. I think that's always exciting. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool. I'll be excited to see when it's not mounted yet, or it's like that's in the process.
No, I always joke around with Jason and Scott because I'm like, I have like I guess all collectors are like this too. It's like I have like 6 or 7 projects like right now going. I'm like I should just zero down on one and like focus and get that thing done. Like this thing's in the cold storage room, like getting ready for paint. Like I've started playing around with the airbrush and right
Okay.
trying to get it painted. That's all it needs. It just needs to be painted. But like even just and I'm a huge research person. Like I will research to death. Joel's always funny because he's like, just paint it, just slap some paint on it, right? You can fix it if it's wrong. But like me and Scott are very like, let's watch 1,000 videos before we paint that one red color. Yeah, that's me. So
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, sometimes, yeah, you just gotta go for it, but I'm very much a researcher before I buy stuff or before I try to like do or take on a big project. Like, especially when I got my 3D printer, I was watching all these videos about like what should I do, which, filament should I buy, blah blah blah. And there's an art to it, especially if you want it to look like accurate, you want to use the correct colors, go with the correct scheme. But if you're just like, whatever, then go for it. But
yeah,
just,
yeah, and it's different for
I'm
Joel, right? Joel's freaking amazing, right?
yeah.
if he messes it up, he'll just redo it. Like me and Scott are like, oh my god, I messed it up. I don't know what to do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm not a talented painter by any means. I wish if I just did it, it's not gonna look good. I just know that for a fact. But I wish I had his talent. His stuff is really cool.
yeah.
Let's see. So did you go with Eben or was this a separate time?
No, it was a separate trip. It was like, I think that was the beginning of the year. I went to see
Okay.
Lucas. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I've been to San Francisco multiple times, and then one time we had extra time in the afternoon for meetings, and I'm like, I'm gonna make a trip. So I got in an Uber and went all the way out there, and yeah, took my
Yeah,
pictures and came back.
it looks cool. Yeah, I saw he was just there and I was like, I wonder if they went together. But
No, it's just
that
an older
is
picture.
on my bucket list to go.
It's very cool to see. So
Is he like big or is he kind of like is Yoda kind of tiny?
it's pretty good. It's pretty good size. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
he's not super tiny. Yeah, it's pretty good size, and it's a nice area of San Francisco, right? Um, the Presidio is like it's a nice area to walk around in. There's not a lot of like traffic. It's just a nice way to like I almost get away from the city for a little bit. So it's worth walking around and seeing. So definitely,
Okay. It's on my bucket list. That
yeah.
is for sure. And then I see you got the slave one.
This is
Cool.
this is a Target. This is the Target exclusive,
Oh.
and this is just it's a 3 1/4 like toy. So I bought the acrylic stand, and then I
Mm-hmm.
repainted and weathered this. So it's it now sits with Joel. I did a trade with
Oh,
Joel, but
okay.
yeah. I did this whole thing. The cool thing about this particular one is I think this is from the vintage collection. So the vintage collection, the Target exclusive was a little bigger and a little more detailed in the back of the engine. So it had a
Yeah.
full detail of the engine versus half detail. So yeah, see there. Um, and like you just take a silver paint pen and put some weathering on it. Like mark all those silver marks are just with a silver like paint pen. And then you take some black wash and make the back look dirty a little bit. So done deal.
Yeah. That looks
So
really cool. What did you trade
yeah.
him for?
I think I traded him for a 1/6 part of the Jabba scenes. So or maybe
Okay.
even part of the band that he did. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a cool. I love the ships. I feel like they just look so cool, but I feel like nothing really beats the creatures and stuff. I
Yeah.
think these are some of the guys behind you,
Yep.
possibly the bounty
Yeah,
hunter.
these are the custom bounty hunters. These are custom statues. They're huge. They sit behind me. Those guys are actually big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the boss. Looks really cool.
yeah. He comes with multiples. He has a couple multiple faces and a couple of different arms
Oh,
and hands, and yeah,
so he's posable.
yeah, yeah. But same thing here. Like if you look at like we talked about at the beginning, like if you look at this base, right? And these are the statues I like because it's like you
Mhm.
look at that base and you're like, it plays with your imagination because like what is he up to, what is he doing, what happened, right? It almost looks like he's like excited that something happened or that he did all that damage, right? It's like it's cool to think about that kind of thing from a Star Wars perspective. So
Yeah, it is. I mean, I like that they give the option with the different heads, the hands and stuff, but I feel like it always is just nice to sometimes to just like put it up there very like add minor things and then just look at it. I'm like, okay, I don't really have to do much to it. Like I can just stare
yeah,
at it. But I get
yeah,
the posing and stuff. Like especially like people that like take photos and stuff and like photographers and they're trying to like really get the posing. Like I get that, but I'm really not like changing my stuff around like that much. And I'm like, oh, today I want Anakin to have a different head and I want Obi to have this hand. But that is just me.
that one I built all from scratch. So that's Bandai's. So that is Bandai. So that's a Bandai trench run. There's like I think
Oh
there's
wow.
4 sets of the trench run in that set, and I built that all, painted all of that. It's the backing for the stars is just it's a piece of poster board, and I just like took 2 paintbrushes and made stars, like smacked the paint, you know.
Okay.
Lights up, like I built one that was exploding on the side wall, and yeah, so
Wow.
I built that all by hand. So
Are those the same ships then, or do you have like a second copy of them?
yeah, so I just buy those. They're such a
Okay.
cool kit. The Bandai kits. If you get all of a Bandai kit, the Bandai kits are so easy to put together. It allows you to paint, you know, and practice your painting. And
Mhm.
these are really small. They have one. They have 1/72 as well, which are a little bigger. And they also have decals with them too. So if you wanted to just do decals versus straight paint, you have decals as well. But it's a cool way to, even if you look at Hobby Lobby and you get a discount on a model, it's
Mhm.
fun to play around with it, right? Even if you mess it up. I'll take Joel's approach. Even if you mess it up, you just reprime it, paint over it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always cool too when collectors kind of get to that level where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna start DIYing and I'm gonna weather, and you just learn all these new skills that you would have never had or like really practiced if you weren't into collecting.
No.
So, love that.
Yeah.
I think these are some different angles of
Yeah.
it.
Top down. Yeah.
Looks are
I
really
like these
cool.
panels too. Like I've used them a bunch of places. Like I have the panels now up on my ceiling and right in the coffee table. So
These
yeah.
similar or
Yeah.
no?
Yep. Those are basically similar things. The vehicles there are from the Fantasy of Flight game.
Okay.
Um, so you don't have to paint these at all. You buy them and right throw them up. But same kind of thing as I had in my original room. I had that little bit of a lip in my basement where
Gotcha.
some of the wiring and stuff were upstairs. So I'm like, Joel, could you like work it out where you can actually just duplicate? Like he printed like I think it's I think it's like 200 tiles.
Wow.
And I think they're 3x3s. And then I just put them on a piece of wood so that I wouldn't have to like figure out how to mount each panel. Put them on a piece of
Mhm.
wood and then line them all up and put them across the room. So
Wow.
the trench run in this room is 20 feet. So
That is
yeah,
cool. That is awesome. Probably took a while to print them all, unless he has like multiple printers, but
it
yeah.
did. Yeah. The funny part with that whole thing is I was even like, after I ordered them, I'm like, Joel, I'm like, I don't think you want to paint these. Like, no, I don't want to paint them. And I'm like, hey, Scott, you want to, or not Scott, I said, Jason, you want to paint these? And he's like, oh, I'll paint them. I'm like, yeah, I'll give you money if you want to paint them all. And he's like, yeah, I'll paint them. And he lined them up in his backyard in Florida. And he's like, Jesus, a lot of painting. So yeah,
Yeah.
he
I was
painted them
trying to
all.
find like a picture of it, but I don't.
Yeah, there's lots of pictures in there. So um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's all good.
it'll come up at some point.
Yeah.
And then I think this is kind of like I feel like it looks
Yeah,
different now because you have some of those behind you.
it
But I
does.
like
And like,
the tables.
yeah, I'm always like, I don't know. That's the thing too. Is like, are we ever happy with our collection? Right? Can we ever get to a point where you're like, oh wow, it's done, right? I'm constant. So like when you're talking about the beginning, like I'm always like looking for new pieces, but I'm also like trying to figure out how I can get more space in the room. So I'm always re-angling and readjusting things to try and fit an additional piece. So yeah,
That is exactly how I am. I have stuff hung up a shelf here. I've got like I built a Funko like I'm so about trying to expand all the space that I have, and even like with some of my Legos, I was like, if I just like lay them flat, they take up so much space. But if I got like a stand for it, I can turn it, and then I can fit another one under it, and then I can have two instead of one. It is a
yep.
thing. I am totally in your boat. That is,
But
but I've
yeah,
always
those are the Home Depot panels. So that
oh,
everybody kind of, those are just, they actually sold them as privacy screens.
interesting.
I didn't paint those at all. They're on a 1 inch, like acrylic riser that they would use for putting posters up. So the 1 inch is screwed into them to give them space from the wall. And then I just put LED behind it. There's no plexi on it. There's no additional cover. and I just screwed them up to the wall, and they're on Govee lights, so I can change colors. That's it.
That
Yeah,
is cool.
pretty easy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to go see if they still sell those. But if not, I always have wanted to make like my own to have like around my entertainment center because I just think it's like such a classic collector Star Wars piece, you know.
Yeah, totally.
That is just me. And I see you got some more statues, but I noticed something
Yeah,
earlier. Well, this wasn't it, but I think this is cool too. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where people
yeah,
have their whole like display. So that is, I like
yeah.
that. Oh
Yeah, it's
wow,
my
are they
full
like
run.
designated?
Yeah,
Like
this
is
is the
each
full. Yeah.
Oh,
So this one is so I feel like I was like one of the first ones to do this like big like display. Um this I actually got the sticker. So a guy in the UK was building these, right? He wouldn't ship at the time because it was a big box, right? This is
yeah.
like a cabinet almost. Anyways, the long and short of this thing is he wouldn't sell me the box because he couldn't ship it from overseas. So he sold me the sticker, so what they call the raceways. He
Mhm.
sold me the sticker, the Kenner, and the Luke and Leia sticker, and then I went on. I think it's an app where you can hire like handyman, Thumbtack. Um, Anyways, I went on there and I'm like, hey, is anybody around? Give me a quote on building a cabinet. And some guy built me the cabinet off of Thumbtack for a couple $100, and put that sticker on there. Those are all glass shelves. So, and then those cards came from Etsy, so I can put those figures in any order or direction I want.
Oh,
So, yeah,
interesting.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
because I noticed some of them have like the names, like Jabba the Hutt. You got the Patrol Dewback, the Wampa. So that
yep.
is pretty cool. It's very
Those are
impressive.
all
I know a lot
the
of people are trying to do that, so it's very
yeah,
impressive. You have all of them.
those are all the original color for the card backs. So whatever they had on the color for the card back, that's the actual color that's shown there too. So
Wow, that is
yeah,
impressive. That that is cool. I know a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm trying to collect it, but it just takes time. And I was like, yeah, it does, because especially trying to get some of the older stuff, especially that's like the original, it's hard to do. So that is pretty impressive that you've done it, and it looks great. I love that cabinet. I was saying earlier, if I ever collected those, that's the cabinet I would want. So that is really
yeah.
cool. Let me see if I can find that. It's like a Lego piece, like a Lego mosaic.
Oh, the Vader mosaic. Yeah,
And I was, oh,
there it is.
this is so cool.
Yeah.
Love this.
So have you seen this before?
I actually was just at a Lego convention and they had some of them. Like they had this one, a Captain Rex, a Commander Cody, but I just think like they're just so cool. Like I really want a mosaic, but I know that they like take a while to put together. And then if you don't do it and you buy it as one, it's like expensive. So
Yeah, so you can these are three of the Vader mosaics. There's a lady on Instagram that actually does all the mosaics, like the Rex, she does Ahsoka. But the thing is like they're all one by one pegs, right? And we're putting Legos together, it's like so you're pressing those one by one. So that you start to like at the end of the week, your finger has this permanent like Lego
like
imprint
Lego.
one by
Yep.
one and your thumb.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, yeah,
that is great. So you actually put each one of those in. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
that's even more impressive. Yeah,
yeah.
that is cool.
So
I know
I got
there's
halfway done. I got halfway done with that, and the dog knocked it over.
no.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
heartbreaking. That is always the worst.
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel so bad. That is terrible, but it looks really cool. Do you have any others or
Yeah.
just that one?
Just that one. If I originally was going to do that, and then I bought another one off of eBay that somebody put together. It's a Boba Fett. It's not all one by ones. It's some other smaller pegs and stuff, but and it was similar size. I was going to do Vader and Fett together. And again, you kind of just run out of wall space, so you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do that anymore. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool. I definitely want to get those. I know some people take like the Batman ones that they have currently and they just buy a few of those and just try to make certain things out of it, but it's on my list to do. I do want to get one of those, but I just think they're so cool. Like it's an art piece, but it's Lego. Like it's just
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's great.
you would love it. I mean, it's right up your alley. You definitely got to do that.
100%. It's on my list. Now that I've graduated, I got all the time, so it's going to be my project. That's for sure. Put it in motion.
Yeah.
Let's see. Got some other signature. It's a lot of signatures.
Yeah, so that's a piece I've been working on for years. That has a lot of like the Boba Fett. It doesn't have every Fett person that's everything that they like. If they touched the costume or a voice, wore the suit, were conceptual artists on it. So it has some like pretty rare ones on there. Nilo's on there, Joe's on there, Jason Wingreen, which is Boba Fett's voice. It has Alan Harris, which was the prototype Boba Fett in white. So Glenn Randall, which he did some of the he did some of the stunt work. Yeah, it's a 8x10. It's been through the mail 100 different times. Which every time you send something like this out, when it leaves, you're like, just like pray it's gonna come back, right? So
Please.
yeah.
So. Yeah, that is really cool. That is awesome. And I also noticed you had this Kenner themed one.
Yeah. This one I feel is unique. I've never seen anyone else do this. I took just the regular Kenner toy logo and I even wanted the proof of purchase in it, right? Because that was a big thing growing up. And then I used there's a Kenner book of like people and artists and what they did and what they worked on for the vintage lines. And so you just start looking through that list of people and you make contact with them through like LinkedIn or Facebook or social media and like, hey, I came across your name. I know you were, you did these things for Kenner around the Star Wars line. Would you be interested in signing my picture? Right. And I sent 4 out. I have 2 11x14s and 2 8x10s for other people that I've been kind of working on with it together. But yeah, so these are the people that actually gave us some of those great vintage toys that are on this. And same kind of thing. Like some of these people aren't used to signing anymore. The sad part too is some of these people got hounded by collectors for years because some of these people had like prototypes of the toys, right? So when you first contact them, they're very, very like skeptical. A lot of them are like, because they don't feel like it's in it just as a collector. They feel like you're trying to scam them or, get something from them. So it's pretty rare. So sad,
cool.
but yeah.
It is sad, unfortunately, but there are good people and good collectors out there that really just want to admire your work and appreciate you and kind of have that memorabilia. But I could totally understand why some of them are kind of defensive and standoffish, is because not everybody is, like us, which sucks. But I think it's pretty cool. You got the first Star Wars toy designer. That is crazy.
Yeah, the guy up on the left, Ed. He's the guy that came up with the early bird special. Right. So they originally had no toys. They couldn't punch out a toy fast enough. Right. So Ed was the guy that came up with, which now they do it like all the time for toys. He came up with that whole, like, what if we gave them a certificate and they send in the certificate when the toys are ready? He's the one that came up with that. And he's on these pictures. So, yeah.
That is cool. Yeah. A lot of big names. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is impressive. I like that you made that too. Like that's cool. I like that a lot. Oh, was this it? The trench run piece?
Oh, yeah. Those are all of them lined up on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, so I lined them all on the floor just to see how long it would be.
And he painted all of them. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't think that's all of them, actually. I think there
And
were two
there's
more.
even some of them.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
crazy.
That is pretty cool. Oh, I see you've got the remote there. Oh,
Yeah.
here's I guess maybe this is it on the wall.
Oh, yeah. I'm starting to put it up on the wall, so.
Nice. Did you put like ships in there yet, or is it just kind of the trench run?
So I have some of the ships that are in there now. And then same kind of thing. It's a project, right? So you're trying to figure out what ships you want in there, and like I have them all. They're on the coffee table, and so. But yeah,
Wow, it fits
eventually
like
that ceiling will
perfectly.
be black. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Wow,
it's cool.
I like that. That is cool, and it fits like perfectly.
It does, yeah.
Like, oh, there's a ship.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like it too because people come in and they look up and they're like, oh, there's ships in there, right? It's cool. So
Yeah, the unexpected subtleties that make all the
yeah,
difference. Oh, there's is that the
yeah, that's
TV
what the mount.
output? Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the mount. It looks bulky, but when you put the 3-foot
And
Falcon in
it's,
there, you
yeah,
can't see it. So, but yeah,
it's big too. So you kind of need something sturdy, especially
some
when you put all that
sturdy.
time into it and stuff. You don't want it to fall or anything. So
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
yeah.
Who's the plaque by?
So Brian's plaque that he sends with all his stuff is back there, and then that is an aerial plaque that he did that has. It's just a digitized signature for every person that rode on the Falcon. So
Oh,
Alec Guinness and Harrison Ford, and so everybody's on there. It's just a
wow.
digitized like signature of theirs. So I thought that was kind of cool to put with it.
Yeah. He does such good plaques. He's so impressive.
He is, yeah,
And they're like
and
so affordable too. It pains me. Makes it too easy.
he's super fast. So yeah,
Oh my god, yeah. I was like trying to when I was getting ready for MegaCon and stuff, I was like, oh my god, everyone has all these plaques. Like I want a plaque, but I don't know if it's gonna get here in time. And it got here like in 2 days. Like but I was like, oh, that was amazing. Like I
yeah,
wasn't expecting that. So I was like, man, I gotta
oh
huh.
yeah, oh yeah, the new Vader, yeah.
Is this the one that they just like put up for pre-order, or is this a different one?
No, that's a different one. That's the statue form of that. But that's the exclusive one. It has like 3 different head sculpts. So it has a fully unmasked, it has this damaged one. Um, it just has the regular Vader, but yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty big. So the cape like billows out from the
Whoa.
side. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
One of
Is
those
that
ones.
like the
Yeah.
Mythos type one, or is
Yeah,
it like
that's the Mythos.
okay?
And then it's paired with the sideshow bust. And then James Earl Jones and Dave Prowse signatures. Um, yeah. And
That
then
is
even
pretty.
the guy that did the plans for Rogue One, the guy's slipping the plans through the door. He signed plans for the Death Star. So
That is awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
cool little display. I like that. Yeah, I'm so tempted to pre-order that new Vader. I feel like that's just so.
Oh, it looks
I feel
great.
like I have to have it. So it's gonna. I
Yeah.
was
Well,
talking
they
to
get
Scott
better and
about it.
better with that stuff too.
I was like, I think that's gonna be my little treat to myself. I like those too. Kind of like Sean's door, but
Yeah.
looks like a painting. That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is done by Michelle Nooney. She when she was first on Spice Runners, she was on a couple of episodes at the beginning. She actually made this in a smaller version. I asked her if she could do it in a life size version. So this is actually on like canvas. And then I had it framed because I couldn't do I always wanted a Han Solo on the door, but like I can't do because of the hidden door capacity, like the weight on it. I
Hmm.
couldn't do a full like prop like everybody does, so I did a painting on the back. So
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
it looks amazing, and I see you've got some pretty life-size droids. It looks like too. You got Lola, BD, R2.
yep. That's my
C-3PO, I
droid.
think?
That's my droid corner. Yeah, that's my full size 3PO, full size R2. So
That is cool. That is cool. So
yeah,
does he move or does he just light up?
just lights up, and he does. So both of those guys, they do motion.
Mhm,
So they do motion sound. I put motion sound in them. That R2 was pretty beat up when he came over. He came over from the UK from a builder, and the
mhm.
fiberglass work on it was horrible. So we had to I had to do like a lot of work and repair on him. I added all the lights to him. I added all the sound to him. Put all the sound cuts in there. But I'm super happy with him. He's again doesn't move. He's very static. He just sits there. But his favorite. He talks to you. I have to turn him off when I'm on camera. So
That is funny. I mean, even if he doesn't move, I feel like that's such an amazing piece. So that's very impressive. I like that.
yeah,
Okay, cool. I mean, you definitely sent me a lot of pictures. I feel like we talked
I
about a lot
did. So
of
don't
it.
don't feel
Is there
like you got to
anything
go
else you
through.
wanted to like highlight before we wrap it up, or?
No, I mean I think that's. I mean, again, I'm all over the place. If and I love to share. Sometimes I talk too much, but like I love to share and I love to participate in the community. So if anybody sees something or they got a question or how did you do that, like I will share just about everything. As far as like how to or what I've done, or if you want to bounce an idea, I love that stuff because that's part of why we're all part of it, right? Just kind of bounce things off of one another. So
Yeah. I think that's really cool that you do that. I know Rex from Millennium Workshops is like that, and it's nice when there's other people out there that are willing to like help you and hey, open door, ask me questions because there are some people out there that aren't like that. So it is nice when you can kind of come across people that are willing to help you. Okay,
yeah.
cool.
I Before you do wrap up, I would say that it's not. I followed you. I enjoy the channel. I enjoy the episodes. A lot of times, like a lot of times with YouTube, I love it because when I'm mowing the lawn and stuff, like I can put it in my ear and
Mhm.
put the YouTube channel on, and I can let it play while I'm listening. And then I can go back and look at pictures and stuff later. But it's definitely an honor to be on your show and on your YouTube channel. So I appreciate the invite.
No, absolutely. And I guess my last question is something new I've been kind of throwing in there, but you seem to be a very experienced collector, or you've gone through multiple phases of collecting. If you could give any piece of advice to other collectors out there, what would it be?
Yeah. So I think what I would do is try as much as you can to future proof your collection, meaning future proof it by meaning like ways that you're going to display things. Like try to think in advance of ways you're going to think about things and how you're going to display. Because it's hard. Like when you buy a piece of furniture and you use it for that one thing, and then that one thing leaves your collection, then you're like, crap, I have to replace that piece of furniture. Um, I've done that 3 times now. I think I'm on my last phase of that, but like try to think about and run it through some 3D programs, even like, lay it all out, even if you got to do little pieces of paper, right? Lay it all out on try and grid yourself out in your collection and try to future proof. So,
Okay. Good piece of advice. I appreciate it. But no, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Sorry, I'm like forgetting how to talk.
that's
But I
okay.
love your collection. I love the Spice Runners. And I know you are trying to hit 1K. So I'm going to
I
leave
am.
information down in the description below so people can find you. Please go check out his channel, the Spice Runners Lounge, and Star Wars Addict77 so we can get him to 1K. But before we hop off, could you let people know where they can kind of find you if you have anything upcoming they should be on the lookout for, anything like that?
Yeah, no. So my Instagram is StarWarsAddict77. You can see me on YouTube's and all over the place. I'm on Spice Runners every Friday night. So love those guys to death. They're brothers to me. We've grown really close over the last couple of years, as much as the community is as well. So, we love the community. We love participation in the chat. We like to have fun and keep it nice and light. As far as Star Wars, it's Star Wars in the end. So, but yeah, find me in those 2 locations. I do make guest appearances on another channel called Casual Nerd Problems, which that's not just dedicated to Star Wars, it's Marvel and everything else. So I started doing some of that here and there. But yeah, That's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, everyone make sure to go check out his channel, give a follow, leave a like, and I will see everybody next Thursday.